You've probably heard the story of Rahab, right? The prostitute from the enemy city of Jericho who hides two Israelite spies. It's this classic tale of espionage and betrayal and faith. But what if I told you there's a kind of secret architecture hidden just beneath the surface of that story?
So, we're going to explore this really fascinating idea today, that the most powerful force in any story isn't the hero or the villain, it's you, the person reading it. Let's see how this one single question can completely change how we look at this ancient narrative.
Okay, so every great story has a plot, the stuff that happens. But these ancient stories, they also have what we're going to call geometrics, a hidden blueprint. It's the way the story is built to guide our thoughts and our feelings, turning a simple tale into this powerful tool for shaping how we see the world.
Just so we're all on the same page, let's do a quick recap. Joshua sends two spies into the enemy city Jericho. They end up at the house of a prostitute named Rahab. When the king's men come looking for them, she hides the spies and sends the soldiers on a total wild goose chase. In return, the spies promise her that she and her entire family will be safe when the Israelite army attacks. Classic stuff.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. This idea of geometrics. This isn't just about what happened. It's about the dynamic relationship between three things: the text itself, the choices the narrator made when telling it, and, crucially, our own interpretations as readers. It's this triangle of forces that actually creates the story's meaning.
Let's dive into that first point of the triangle, the text. You have to remember, the original author wasn't just, writing down facts. They were more like a director, carefully choosing where to point the camera and what to show us.
In the original Hebrew, the grammar itself actually creates a rhythm. There's a specific verb form that just pushes the action forward. It's the story's engine, and then this happened, and then this happened. But the narrator can also use a completely different structure to slam on the brakes, hitting pause. It's like switching from a fast-paced action shot to a sudden dramatic close-up.
As the biblical scholar Adele Berlin puts it, the narrator is the camera eye. It's such a perfect metaphor. We can only see what the narrator decides to show us. And just as important is how they decide to show it. The pacing, the focus, it's all completely intentional.
And you can see this in action right at the very beginning of the story. The narrative moves at lightning speed. Joshua sends spies, they go, they enter a house, boom, boom, boom. It's a rapid-fire sequence of and then, and then, and then. But right in the middle of all that action, the camera suddenly pauses. A quick zoom in. And why? To tell us the woman's name is Rahab. That pause is like a nudge from the narrator whispering, hey, pay attention, this name is important.
So, that's the narrator's side of things. But what about our side? Let's move to the second critical point of that triangle. Us, the reader. Because, let's be honest, none of us reads a story in a vacuum. We all show up with some baggage.
Think of it like this. You have a mental library. It's everything you know, your cultural background, your beliefs, all the other stories you've ever heard. This entire collection in your head shapes how you make sense of what you're reading. And the wild part is, as that library changes over time, so does the story itself.
I mean, just look at how Rahab has been completely transformed over the centuries. For the original audience, she's a clever, cunning outsider making a deal to survive. Okay, now fast forward 1,000 years or so, and rabbinic commentators, with a mental library all about conversion and repentance, they see her as a model convert to Judaism. Then early Christians see her as a symbol of the church, her scarlet cord foreshadowing salvation. And today? Wow, we see her through dozens of modern lenses. It's the same text, but different mental libraries create completely different meanings.
And that brings us to the modern era, where our mental libraries have become just incredibly diverse. This has caused an absolute explosion of different ways to read this one story, creating what you could call a hall of interpretations.
Which, of course, leads to the big question, what kind of story are we actually reading here? Is it a simple historical account, or is it something else entirely? Well, the answer really depends on which door you open in this hall.
For example, some scholars, using a historical critical lens, see it as an ideological saga. It's just a fancy term for an origin story. For them, the whole point of the narrative is just to explain why this non-Israelite family was living in Israelite territory later on.
Others look at it and say, no, it's a classic spy narrative. They compare it to other espionage stories from the ancient world, and you know what? It fits the genre perfectly. It's all about reconnaissance, narrow escapes, and getting help from an insider. Or what if it's a cultic legend? This is a really interesting theory. It suggests the story isn't a historical record at all, but more like a script for an old religious festival. with that scarlet cord and some of the speeches being echoes of an ancient ceremony.
Now, one of my absolute favorite readings comes from the scholar Yair Zakovich, who argues the story is actually a comedy, a parody of a spy story where the supposed heroic spies are totally clueless, and Rahab, the brilliant prostitute, outsmarts literally everyone, from the king to the heroes themselves.
And then, from a completely different angle, you have post-colonial feminist scholars like Musa Dub. She reads the story as a powerful critique of imperialism. In this view, Rahab is a native woman who is forced to collaborate with foreign invaders just to survive, making the story this powerful allegory for the dynamics of colonization.
So, which one of these is right? Well, the theologian Ulrich Luz offers this beautiful answer. He says a text isn't like a sealed reservoir with a fixed amount of meaning inside. No, it's more like a source, constantly bubbling up with new water. Every generation, every reader can draw fresh, new meaning from the exact same place.
Okay, so this has been a really fascinating academic exercise. But why does understanding the geometrics of an ancient story like this actually matter to us today? What's the takeaway?
It matters because this isn't just about the Bible. This is about all stories. When we see how narratives are built and how we actively participate in building their meaning, we start to understand how the stories we tell shape everything: our personal identities, our cultures, and the ongoing conversation we're all having with history.
As David Gowler puts it, we stand on the shoulders of centuries of conversations. Think about that. Every time we read or interpret or even retell a story, we aren't starting from scratch. We are joining a dialogue that has been going on for thousands of years, adding our own voice to this incredible chorus.
And this brings us right back to you. The story of Rahab is part of this massive cultural conversation. So, what stories are shaping your life right now? What conversations are you a part of? And what meaning are you helping to create in the world?